Right now at 6, a Rose City by any other name.
Yeah, it's a national perception.
How Portland's reputation and not necessarily reality may be holding back recovery.
Plus, toward a new earthquake-ready Burnside Bridge. The critical development now moving the project forward.
Then, it may get them on base, but this team needs a home run. With worries the latest efforts to save the Hillsborough Hops could be too little, too late. But first,
it would not surprise me if there was like a dead body in there, I swear.
Absent owners and full of problems.
It's really hard on the neighborhood, and it just feels like you're screaming into a void.
The long slog when it comes to dealing with vacant homes.
Thanks for joining us at 6. I'm David Molko.
And I'm China Green. We begin with the city's efforts to foreclose on vacant properties that have caused trouble in 6 Portland neighborhoods.
Neighbors pointing to things like crime, squatters, and drug use, though as Blair Best found out, it could be a while before anything changes.
It takes only one house to upset an entire neighborhood.
We're so burned out at this point.
In this case, it's an abandoned Tudor-style home at the end of Southeast Martin Street. Kari lives 2 doors down.
It was a chop shop. There were over 18 people living there. There were children involved. It would not surprise me if there was like a dead body in there, I swear.
Now, if you take a closer look, the windows have been broken and the front door has been boarded up. Now, over the past couple of years, police have responded to this home 32 times. And this is just one of 6 vacant properties the city is now looking to foreclose on.
These properties have been identified as causing significant problems for neighbors, and they're the subject of multiple and frequent police calls.
This week, the city's Bureau of Development Services recommended 6 properties for foreclosure, including the one on Southeast Martins.
Come and get it. We've been waiting.
Our goal is to minimize the effects and problems these properties create in the community.
The 6 properties reach all corners of Portland. In total, the owners owe more than $700,000 in unpaid fees for code violations and nuisance complaints, but the city can't reach them.
Police have been called several times.
Adrian lives next to one of the vacant homes in North Portland. He's watched it deteriorate over the years.
We worry that the wrong kind of people are going to notice it.
There's been a real lack of response from the city to deal with the list of problems that are associated with these abandoned properties.
City Council will soon vote on whether to foreclose on the properties. If they vote yes, Oregon law requires them to give the property owner 1 year's time to reclaim it before they take over. Meanwhile, patience among neighbors is running thin.
It's just really hard for neighbors. It's really hard on the neighborhood, and it just feels like you're screaming into a void.
All right, so this week, city commissioners voiced their concerns over how long this foreclosure process takes here in Oregon. And now there are talks of lobbying the state to change some laws to speed up this process. David, China.
Wow, 32 times in a single year. Thank you, Blair. In tonight's headlines, Portland police are looking for a man wanted in a bias crime attack. These are pictures of that suspect. He's accused of yelling racial slurs at 2 kids and then spitting on one of them. This was back on December 29th, though authorities just released the details today. Police say a 16-year-old girl and her 11-year-old brother were walking along Southeast 28th and Burnside when the suspect confronted them. They tried to walk away, and that is when police say he yelled those slurs and spit. Anyone with information should contact Portland Police.
2 teens have been arrested in a child abduction case. The suspects are just 13 and 14 years old. Police say back in November, the teenage boys stole a car from a driveway at a Northeast Portland home. There was a young girl sitting in the back while the car was warming up. Her father had briefly gone inside their home. The girl was found nearby a short time later. Luckily, she was unhurt. The car was found abandoned later that night.
The victim of a shooting in the Lentz neighborhood has now been identified. Police say 85-year-old Jeanette B. Kraft was killed yesterday morning at a home on Southeast 100th. One person inside was detained after a standoff with police. That suspect has not been publicly identified yet. We understand that will happen once they are formally charged.
And the Burnside Bridge project is federal approval after environmental review. That means it can move into the design phase. That's expected to take several years, though. But if all goes well, construction could start as soon as 2027. The estimated cost is approaching $900 million. Matt?
Thanks so much, China. Looking down on our bridges in Portland, we still have a cloudy sky. Temperature's not too cold at 46 degrees. We ended up with sunshine up in the mountain today and in eastern Oregon. We will get into that act beginning tomorrow, but after the morning fog. And that morning fog may be dense, so factor that in if you have any early morning driving plans. But the weekend will be mainly dry, including Sunday. A couple showers Sunday, but mainly dry. And there are no big storms on the horizon for several days to come, if not in probably more than a week, actually. So fog in the morning, then 46 at noontime as the clouds are breaking up. Should be mainly clear by later in the day at 5 o'clock, which is a full half hour before tomorrow's sunset of 5:30. First 5:30 sunset of the year. We'll make a 6 o'clock sunset on the 3rd of March, and then when daylight saving time resumes on the 10th of March, suddenly sunset will be after 7 o'clock, and by the end of the month of March after 7:30. So we're getting there as the length of day accelerates as we go through the rest of February, guys.
Yeah, music to our ears. Thank you, Matt. All right, we have some new developments this evening in the case of a teenager who's now admitted to setting multiple fires in Portland's Mount Tabor neighborhood during peak wildfire season.
The now 19-year-old apologized today in court, and Ashley Grams is live outside the Multnomah County Courthouse with those details. Ashley.
Yeah, the teenager accused of starting those fires near Mount Tabor Park, well, he pleaded guilty and he won't face any jail time. Today, he was sentenced to community service and probation. 19-year-old Hares said that he admitted to starting a fire that damaged Grace Lutheran Church in July of 2022, and less than a month later, started fires in Mount Tabor Park and Harrison Park. Back in September of 2022, after his car was caught on camera in the area, Hares told Portland police he, quote, didn't know why they were starting these fires. They were just being stupid. The teen was talking about setting the fires with Wayne Chen and Samuel Perkins, two others charged in the same indictment. Both pleaded guilty to 1 count of arson and were sentenced to probation. Today in court, Hare's lawyer apologized.
On his behalf, I'd like to offer an apology to the community and the victims in this case. Mr. Hares is here taking accountability and ready to, move on with his life and get in a better direction.
Now, along with community service, Hares also needs to pay restitution. An attorney for the state said he'll need to pay close to $30,000 to cover the cost of all the damages. David, China.
Ashley Grams reporting live outside the Multnomah County Courthouse. Thank you, Ashley. And developing this evening, the clock is ticking toward a deadline to keep professional baseball in the Portland Metro.
Tick tock, tick tock. Thomas Schultz is here. So, Thomas, are the Hops making any headway when it comes to finding the funding to stay in Hillsborough?
Well, David and China, there's good news and bad for Hops fans. The good, Washington County commissioners now plan to chip in $8 million for a new ballpark. The bad, the team's still looking for an additional $15 million from the state. And a March 15th Major League Baseball deadline for funding is looming.
Very nervous. Very nervous.
For the past few months, tensions have been high for the Hillsborough Hops.
So I think our fans are nervous, our partners are nervous.
Not nervous for the upcoming season or because of a Stars promotion, but because the team is searching for funding to build a new stadium. This comes after Major League Baseball announced minor league teams had to meet new standards, like providing a visitor clubhouse, women's locker room, and weight rooms. Hops president K.O. Wambacher says the team looked to renovate the ballpark, though it wasn't feasible. Instead, they're planning to build a new stadium, costing $125 million.
So it is an uphill challenge.
Though recently, the squad got a boost after Washington County commissioners unanimously approved $8 million for the stadium, with plans to hold concerts and other events there too.
We think it's going to be a huge benefit to have an event center like this.
Leaving the Hops just $15 million short of their goals after raising more than $80 million privately.
We need our state legislators to step up and close the last final gap.
Some legislators agree. In a letter, they say Oregon will lose $100 million in personal income tax revenue if pro baseball goes away in Hillsborough and Eugene. And an economic analysis shows the state would recoup its investment in 6.5 years. Still, others are skeptical.
I think it's time for the business owners to pay for what they need, not to ask the public to pay for what they need.
Jody Weiser, an advocate for equitable tax code, says the state shouldn't fund private business.
It's not good economic development for Hillsborough.
And as the back and forth continues, the season approaches, and so too does the deadline.
But at the end of the day, there's just a lot of needs that our state has, and not enough money to fund everything. So it'll probably come down to the wire.
And that clock just continues to tick. Now, the Hops, if they do move, Wambacher says they're looking maybe at Washington, or also a potential move to Boise, Idaho for that new home. China?
I hope things align. Hops games are so much fun. Thomas, thank you. And speaking of games, straight ahead at 6, some Portland student athletes can't play home games because their own field is too dangerous. The fix finally on the way. Plus,
we're optimistic. We're seeing some momentum build.
Rose City on the rebound. An update on how the convention center is working to boost those efforts.
And coming up at 6:30 on The Story, a family from Camas suing retail giant Amazon. Why they say the company is responsible for their son's suicide, and they are not the only ones. What children were buying online and using to end their lives.